God sees. God hears. You know why Hagar's story is so beautiful? Because she's beaten down to the point that you can't really get any lower. And she wanders off into a wilderness, representative of whatever wilderness we go into. And when she gets there, she has an encounter with a God who calls her by name, gives her a child, and whom forever she gets to refer to as the one who sees and hears me. And that's the revelation that it takes for Hagar to turn around and go do what she has to do. And what she has to do is bring that child to term. It's important that he live. He's part of what will bless the families of the earth. And so she goes back and she has that child. Now, if we displace Hagar and put her in the middle of a cosmic religious battle, we're forced with the question of why did God chase her in the wilderness at all? Why didn't he just let her die out there? Because, boy, wouldn't we be a whole lot better off if we didn't have to deal with the multitudes of religious family trees that are fighting in the world today. Now, if you land there, I'm not cutting it down. I'm the one that brought it up. It's because I've wrestled that out as well. As I go, why chase her down at all? Let her and what Paul calls the son of the flesh die. Maybe if you don't chase her down and reveal yourself to her, she'll just wander off into the wilderness and we won't ever have to deal with her and Ishmael. And if we say that, it's evidence that we don't realize that when God is love, God sees and God hears and God calls by name. The very definition, when we say God is love, we go, what's that mean? God is love. That's a big phrase. That's the New Testament version of God, by the way. 1 John 4:10. God is love. How do we define that? And we'll try, and we end up at the cross, and that's a good place to start. I said it's a good place to start. It's not a good place to end. We always end there, but it's a good place to start. God so loved the world. But we got a whole corpus of Scripture that shows us that God is love means he chases what we would consider unlovable people into unlovable and uninhabitable wildernesses, and he sees them and he hears them and he spends the time listening. And that's quite a command. Therefore the well, verse 14, was called Ber Lehe Roi. Observe. It is between Kadesh and Bered. Ber Lehe Roi means I have seen the Lord that has seen me. Listen to that. I have seen the Lord that has seen me. Now, let's follow Hagar's progressive revelation, shall we? Pressed down, abused in every possible manner, she wanders out into the wilderness, completely devoid of friends and family and relatives and hope, and she's about to die. And the God of eternity shows up and calls her by name. Hagar asks her a couple of questions. She does the best she can to answer them. And then God blesses her with a son whose name means he hears. And then she names God, he sees. And then she finds a well and renames it. I am the one who sees the God who sees me. Hagar responds to the love of God. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for in every person we ever hope God talks to or shows himself to or speaks to, is that they reciprocate with, I see the God that sees me. And I think if you can learn nothing else in your wilderness, learn to see the God who sees you. I can see God in the middle of this. I can see him loving me. I can't see a way out. I can't figure out how I got in here. But I see the God who sees me, and I'll never again believe that he doesn't see me and that he doesn't hear me. Now, where does this go? This brings up the question again, is why doesn't God just abandon this? And it also kind of helps wrestle out what I struggle with in that way back in that 9th verse where God says, return to your mistress. And I go, gosh, why she got to return to her mistress? And the best I can do is that it's necessary to bring Ishmael into the world. And to do so, she needs to go back to the only place that'll be able to nurse her into doing that. And so she does. But that's not the end of her story. In fact, it's not the end of her wilderness. The Bible doesn't abandon Hagar. It brings her back. And I don't mean in Paul's 4th chapter of Galatians.